I'd like to start with the title, because I'm very curious where y'all came up with the title and how it is reflective of the story.
Well, title is about 30 or 40 years ago, I was walking in the city, New York, and UPS or FedEx person started whistling, straighten up and fly right to me. As I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a little curved and I don't look up. So, I wanted to be mad at him, but I happen to like that song a lot, and it's, you don't hear it all the time. And so I was half mad and half, intrigued. And I never, really found out why he was doing that. And I'm used to all kinds of things in the streets of New York, coming my way. And when it came for a title for this film, I just thought of that and prayed we'd get the rights to the music.
I've got to ask, as far as where the story comes from and the intimacy of these characters, how much of this is based on real things you've seen, real things that you've come across, and was it tough at all to tell us this story? There are moments in it that can be difficult for people to see what's going on. How hard was it to create this?
It's a two-handed question.
I'll do the second part.
Okay.
You do the first part.
Well, I can say that I'll just sort of the inception of the story was that our former president made fun of the disabled New York Times reporter, and Steven happened to be watching the news that night, and it sparked a reaction and a response to want to do something with the anger and rage he was feeling at watching this reporter be mocked. And so the morning after, I used to live in the same building with Steven for almost 13 years. So every morning we saw each other. Every morning we made coffee together, and we'd talk about the news, what happened the night before, what the paper said in the morning. And I just remember him bringing that up first thing and saying how angry he was and how he wanted to do something about it and not just be angry. And so, the concept was to just write a story that would sort of put disability forward. Not knowing how or where, but Steven's been writing for a very long time and has made other films, but has always made the films never about a disability, but always had a disabled character, because that's part of the thread of society. People just exist, and it's okay to just have characters in films that exist and not necessarily saying this is a film about a disability or this is a thing, right? But this time it was you can't ignore it. And so that kind of propelled the concept, but because of Steven and I having such a strong relationship and collaboration for over 15 years, he's been my mentor since I was a kid. So it's a very natural thing to kind of come together and sort of examine what that response was, but also what the bigger story might be and how it might impact other people.
And also how a disability can make you feel like an outsider or make you feel alone. So we could use our relationship in the film to show how through a relationship, people can find, on a very basic level, company, but also art and other things.
Yeah.
How important is it to show then the reality of sex and love and all these things in this story? I think that's an important part of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Those things are real.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, have like a checklist. I'm going to talk about this and this and this. We talked together about a lot of things. And, some of it's based on our experience because of the fact that the movie's about a relationship between two people. So we used our relationship a lot in the movie, although they were at the beginning of their relationship, and we've been friends and other things for a long time, and
yeah, and
I just went blank.
that's okay. Yeah, and that being a part of Steven having known me for so long and me knowing him for so long, and knowing the sort of struggles that both of us have experienced in our lives with finding a community, finding a balance, needing each other to sort of fill the holes that we didn't have in our lives, which Steven never had kids, and I kind of came from a very complicated family background. So we were able to step into each other's lives and help sort of set off the balance of however life gave us our cards.
I thought I did that on purpose.
Oh, did you?
No.
That explains everything.
He knew.
What else can you do that you're holding back? But this sort of sense of why is there sex in the film? Why is there love? Why is all of these things there that this character wants so desperately, but is struggling to find on her own, right? I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with people paying for sex if that's the way they want to get it or do it, but in this world of this character, she's really craving connection. She's really craving something deeper, community, and that's not something she could pay for. And so her kind of meeting Steven's character and him bringing out the thing that she really wants, which is to be closer to people. So when she starts meeting new people in the film, you see that it's coming up against her own sort of need or fear to isolate and to be withdrawn, because walking around in society in that body, in that way, people either overlook or they directly poke fun or they directly stare. And so you're either on display or you're completely invisible.
Well, they poke fun, but it's I would be a little more, that's kind of giving them the easy description. People are pretty cruel, when they don't know you and there's nothing at stake for them and they feel free to really let loose on you. And that's, we tried to portray that with the little girl in the film. Mm-hmm. Someone who started out as someone who, taunts her and, tortures her and ends up being, part of the family, so to speak, by the end of the film.
How important is showing the city, how important is New York to this story, even though I think this story could be shown everywhere?
Right.
Why is New York so specifically important to this? Other than the fact that you're there, you know what I mean? Like, it's a part of the story for what I've seen.
We're going to not bring up the fact our budget and, New York's a great asset when you don't have a budget. It becomes, just walking around in New York City, you get so many things that, you wouldn't normally get. So, it's important for that reason, but it's also, I love, I don't know if I love New York now, but I definitely loved it up until now. And I love New York films, can't get enough of them. And so I just wanted, I didn't want a backdrop. I wanted it to, be part of the film and to be, the tired thing of saying, it's another character in the film. And, so far, from the feedback that we've gotten, people tend, thankfully, to agree.
Yeah, and also being both New Yorkers, born and raised, it's also part of the story of how we even came together, because a city like New York brings people from all walks of life and pushes them all together, and you either collaborate with them or you flip them off, and so Steven and I were lucky to do both. And also that, our film, because of the character's physicality and her body and her disability, she literally can't look up. So the world around her is very sensory and sound and intense. And New York is that. And, part of sort of how we designed what we were doing with the film was that we wanted the character and sort of what her inner monologue is also the fear of what's going on around her that she can't see. You know, crossing the streets in New York City is already an adventure, whether, you know, like you can see that you have two legs that walk fine. But when you start removing things, crossing a street in New York is very dangerous.
It just, I mean, it really added to that aspect of the film. And, you know, that idea of New York is all, sorry about that, is all around her, you know, and in your face and otherwise. And we wanted to include the city as much as possible that way.
How much did you lean on Steven as far, that's a probably bad word choice, but it may work. In finding your physicality for this role, how much did you need his 15 years of friendship to really capture what I think, what I saw, I would have believed you if you came in here disabled?
Yeah, well, it's a good point that you mentioned that it's really the history that we have so much of that informed the role, it informed the film, it informed the writing even, and it, of course, informed the performance, because I have been the eyes and ears for Steven in many situations, you know, out in the world. And so I've seen and watched him for so long without recognizing that ever would come into something bigger than just, you know, helping and being there for him.
You can't help but record it.
Yeah, I couldn't help but record it. Right. And so in a way, you know, I'm very grateful that Steven asked me to play this role and was willing to also take that risk too, because it...
But also because we've been with each other for so long that it's not something that she had to learn all of a sudden for this role. You know, it's an accumulation of, you know,
of experiences.
15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, first of all, half the film is about our relationship. And, you know, and the film obviously is also about the physicality. And that's why we didn't cast an actress with ankylosing spondylitis, because they didn't have the relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, so you have to have both. And that's why, you know, that's why we're together in this film. Couldn't have this film without the both of us. You know.
Yeah, and
also I trusted that she could. Sorry.
It's okay.
She could. She knew how to play the role. You know, she's with me night and day. You know, for 20 years. You know, if anybody knows, you know, what the life is like, it's her.
By the way, I love y'all's dynamic. The bickering is great. It's real. You mentioned earlier the reaction to the film. Please tell me about the Slamdance experience and why we'll get to Bentonville in a minute. I have a lot of tie-ins there, but Slamdance picks films that are bold and out there and tell stories that we may not see. How cool was it to be at that festival, and what were the reactions from that very honest, open audience?
Well, we weren't there. That's the problem.
It was virtual, but it's okay. He's very literal. Yeah. It was
this
a
COVID has killed
experience.
so much.
It did. But it still was an amazing experience, and I can say that, you know, for a virtual experience, they really, as the programmers and festival organizers, did their absolute best to make us feel part of something, part of the sort of ethos that is Slamdance and the spirit of, you know, for filmmakers by filmmakers, and like, we don't need you, Sundance. You know, that sort of rock and roll spirit of what Steven and I have been doing for so long. And so it was kind of cool in a way that this film that's about community, that's about finding, you know, your people in a way that was just like, it was this very open, welcome feeling that we just have never experienced like that. And
they shared with us a lot of the stories of how they came to choose us, because you know, up until that festival, we hadn't been in any festival, you know, so there was no let's say, obvious reason on that level to choose us. And they said, I believe, I don't know, these stories now are starting to blend. It could be from Milwaukee or it could be from Slamdance. I don't know where it's from. But they said they need to pick one more film, and this wasn't them. Never mind. How are you sure about that?
Because I'm sure. It's okay.
So it was Milwaukee.
No, it won't. I mean, we could talk about it. It's Chicago. We went to the Chicago Critics Film Festival. Yes, he said it on the stage to the entire audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
what was his reason? Why did he want to bring just this one film to close it
no,
out?
it's... I'll go back to that. Okay. So basically he said they had one more spot to fill at Chicago Critics, and they had gotten a ton of submissions and whatever, and he just said, I'm literally going to look at like one more film, and I hope it's the right one. And he had a ton of films in his inbox, and he watched our film, and he's just like, I'm not going to watch a better film than this. So we were just like, what? And we're, standing on stage. It's just like, all I'm saying, and the point of that story is that it's just really cool to be on the other side of all of this, because it took us 6 years to make this film. Steven had a heart attack, a stroke, and he broke his neck 3 separate times in the process of making this. So the fact that we finished it, the fact that we're sitting here on this yellow, beautiful, golden mustard velvet couch and this bank, at Bentonville Film Festival, it's a miracle. And so the reception from Slamdance and all the festivals so far and audiences have been very positive and very moving to us, because we only wanted to ever move anybody just 1 inch away from their own loneliness and isolation or not feeling seen. And Steven met the head of the Ankylosing Spondylitis Association, which again, it's like another thing that he might not have known of, because it's just not something he sought out, and now he's part of this association. People have watched this film from that association and have said, I've never seen myself on screen before. I've never seen this disability be represented in such an authentic way, and coming from somebody with that experience and your relationship. So it's just been very overwhelming in a positive way, which, being jaded New Yorkers from the get-go, we're like having to warm up to all of this happening, because it's life-changing, and that's what Slamdance was. It was really a lifeline and life-changing.
We wouldn't be here today if Slamdance hadn't, initially selected us.
Yeah. Also, my phone was just about to die when they called, and I was on the bus. And so if my phone died at that moment, because I never checked my voicemail, so I probably wouldn't have known. We probably would have missed Slamdance, honestly.
There'd just be a voicemail from Dan going, you guys are in.
Yeah. I was just
hello?
like, hello, I was like, hi, this is Cameron from Slamdance. I just want to call because we want to tell you you're in the festival. I'm like, what? Oh my God, I was like, my phone's going to die. Hold, like screaming on the bus, and people are like, what's wrong with this lady?
So cool.
Yeah, so I thought I'd give you all the Slamdancery.
I liked it. We went on the festival circuit with you guys, and we'll continue. Let's talk about being included, since the word is right behind you, in Bentonville, knowing Gina and Wendy, and what they're trying to do is showcase people who aren't seen to see it, be it, but in a inclusive way. How important is it to be in a festival that champions filmmakers and films that show things we may not have even seen before?
Well, I'm very, happy to be here, and happy to be chosen. I don't know, how many films they chose and whatever, but the fact, why are you laughing? The fact that they did, is quite amazing to me, and I'm just hope they're glad that they did.
What made y'all want to travel here? This is not an easy place to get to.
Oh, we just wanted to visit Walmart.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Is there a festival happening?
There is.
This is weird.
I mean, that's a big deal for you. Like you said, I mean,
Yeah.
getting here is
well,
it's an adventure in itself.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. It's this adventure that we've been on, kind of seeing this response to our film, and in a way it's like this call to action for us to show up too and say like the film is moving out towards other people, and we also want to be here to talk with them and to say like why did you come to the screening? Like, what interested you about this film? We're even a little like coming here awestruck, like.
But we know a little bit about this festival, so just knowing that little bit, that made us want to come here, as opposed to any other festival that is lucky enough, we're lucky enough to be invited to. You can't go to all of them.
And I would just say, specifically being here today, as Roe has been overturned, we were just landing.
Yeah.
As it happened, and getting to the hotel and turning on the news, and just the shock of that, and also the joy of being here and being part of something that Gina Davis is working so hard to make, for people to be included and to build a better world in film. Yeah, and it was really an intense feeling of, I don't know how to I'm like crying, I'm happy, I'm distraught, but it was also this weird sense of this festival and what it stands for, and people behind it are working towards what we hope would be the inclusive thing it's going to extend beyond film, it's going to extend beyond media, right? And that's what we're here to do. And so being here today with this film, with Steven, it's a highlight of our lives. It's also, means that we just have to keep making sure that the work that we do, and no matter what it is that it's inclusive, and that we're just happy to be aligned with this festival and the mission statement and all of it, and just like seeing the pages of what this festival is today at this moment was so powerful, and actually gave me a lot of comfort to say like, okay, the whole world has not gone to total shit. There's still some light
Give
there.
them idiots some time. They're doing a lot.
Yeah, but Gina Davis for president.
She played one really well.
No, but I mean, like, for real.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
I'm a little bit older than her, so when I first started doing this, a movie like this really wasn't possible. So it's a nice marker to say like, it's nice that things like this can happen. Not from me or her, but just that, this film will be seen, so now a few others will be seen, and then a few more will be seen, and then it'll be more like of a regular thing.
Well, that leads to a question of, what are you guys working on now?
Right.
Maybe not a sequel or anything like that, but I'm curious, as far as your collaboration, will we see more of it? What are you guys doing separately? I mean, you guys do a lot of work, so I'm curious, what's the next down the line for you guys?
Well, we were talking about doing a film, but then I think you brought it up. I don't know. I guess 30 years ago, I was teaching on Rikers Island in New York City, which is the largest correctional center in the world. And at that time, they opened up the first ward for inmates with full-blown AIDS. And they were having a very hard time finding teachers to go there because everybody was afraid. So they got around to me, they asked me, and I said I would do it. And I spent a year there. And all the inmates were, essentially, they were dying, so not in a great need of a GED. It was, an amazing experience. And after I left there, about a half a year later, I wrote a script, and I don't think just honestly, I just wasn't. I don't think anybody wanted that then. Whether they were ready for it or not, they didn't want it. And so, based on the reception that this film has gotten, when she brought it up, because I've forgotten about it, it really struck me that because after you do a film like this, you don't want to. It's not that you can't do a romantic comedy, but. You want to find another story that's, not the typical thing, and I just think that this story that also has not been told, and I think a lot more people would be open to it now.
Yeah, and at the same time he was teaching at Rikers, he was after or before coming to the dance and acting class where I met Steven, and teaching a group of girls between the ages of 9 and 12 how to write and how to act and how to put on shows. And so Steven was living a very interesting life at that time.
I can tell you who the most violent were.
Yeah. Our class was, I don't know, we would have given those guys a run for their money, for sure. And so, that was kind of what was happening in his world. And I remember he did a one-man show that played off Broadway, and our group of girls went and saw it, and so I just remember being like 10 and him talking about, being in Rikers with the AIDS ward and the experience he had, and that made such an impact on me because I grew up in the West Village in the 90s, and I had my mom's friends were all gay, and most of them died from AIDS, and that was a really horrific time in our history, and the response to it and how society acted, even people in New York who were afraid of catching it by, just being around somebody who had it. So, yeah. And,
it's also another New York story.
It's also another New York story, and that's really important.
Shocking, Steven, shocking.
Yeah, shocking. Set in Miami. And I think, the big lessons that I've learned from our mentor-mentee relationship is how important it is to tell your story, and that your experiences are unique in how they are expressed, but are universal in how they're experienced. And so, I think I'm gonna also write on, some of my own stuff too, and hope that Steven will play a role in that. He'll have to audition, obviously, but.
Yeah, okay.
Well, first of all, please make that film.
Yeah.
This one was amazing. I'd love to see that one. So if you got one person champion, you've got one. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for coming all the way out here. The film is remarkable. I didn't realize I was going to see all that I was going to see, and yet I was really moved by it.
Thank you.
And I wish you guys the best here. I hope Bentonville lives up to the expectations.
It already has.
Yeah, you've been a good representative so far.
And we're from Texas, so what do we know? Yeah, what do we know?
The lies.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.